so the most important thing, some of you guys have never been through this before, this calculations with rent, but the number one thing is to understand there's expenses involved in rentals. Far too often people say like, oh, well, I'll just rent it out. My mortgage is $2,000 and I can rent it $2,000, or I can rent it for $2,500. I'm gonna make $500 a month. It doesn't work that way at all, not even close to it. So he was talking about renting it for $4,500 a month?
Correct.
Okay, so here's how this
And
works.
he bought it in the low time, so he's gonna cash out on his equity.
So he's got a couple options here, and we'll do a rent versus sell analysis. All right, so he's gonna rent it for $4,500. Do you happen to know what his mortgage was by chance?
He bought it in 2008, so he said he bought for like $300,000. It's now worth like $700. Bought a piece of shit.
You can rent it for $4,500.
But he put a lot of money in it. And he was in the Bay Area, so what I don't know much about the Bay Area at all, which was.
Okay, it's fine. $4,500 is the rent. The important thing to note is if he moves down here, he's probably not managing the property himself. He's gonna hire a property manager, right? So when somebody hires a property manager, the typical expense figure, and you can pull up an article on Zillow or a million articles out there, typical expense percentage on investment property. On something that they're hiring a property manager, it's gonna be about 40% is what the expense number is gonna be. So that number is going to be 1,800, right?
It's $2,000, I think.
1,800, right?
I think it's $2,000.
16 plus $2,000.
I checked my phone.
1,800, you're right. 1,800. Yeah.
Okay, so just the expenses alone are gonna be 1,800 bucks on that. So,
A month?
And what do you mean by expenses, so everybody understands?
yes, so to understand what expenses are gonna include, now this is important to understand, that does include property taxes, that's insurance, that's maintenance, that's repairs, that's management, it's vacancy, very important one that people don't seem to think about.
And
Plus,
typically they charge 80 to 100%, 80 to 100% of the first month's rent to put a new place someone
Yeah.
in your rental.
So his $4,500 that he thinks he's gonna get, and he probably has a mortgage of like $3,000 or something. So he's like, oh sweet, I'm gonna rent this thing out and I'm gonna make like 1,500 bucks. He's not, because once you take that 1,800, he's only left with $2,700 that's actually gonna make it to him. So let's just assume in this scenario, his mortgage was $3,000. He's actually gonna be losing money every month, but he doesn't even realize it. But far too often, people just look at these two numbers like, yeah, I'll rent this thing out, I'm gonna make 1,500, but he's not. He's gonna, let's just assume for some reason it was 2,500 bucks or even 2,000. So let's just assume he had a $2,000 mortgage. So he's gonna cash flow 700 bucks a month. That's not a whole lot of money. Now, you said he bought this at a really good time, right? Like, do you have any idea what he paid for it and what it's worth?
He said that he bought it for a couple $100,000.
Do you have any idea what it's worth?
So I'm gonna assume like 300,000 or
Okay.
max 400,000.
Okay, do you have any idea what it's worth?
He said that he could, pocket a couple $100,000. This is how
Okay.
this guy talked to you.
Okay, you could pocket a couple hundred, so let's just roll with that. So,
600,000,
the alternative is he sells this thing, 200,000. So, how much taxes is he paying on this?
1.25.
No. How much income tax is he paying on that 700? Depends on his tax bracket. He's in California. He's in California. He's paying at least 30% on that, right? So now his 700 take away 210. Now he's left with 490, right? So after taxes, he's maybe taking home 490 bucks. Let's just call that $6,000 a year after taxes that he's actually taking home on it. Or he sells it, 200,000. How much is he paying in taxes on that? Zero. Because it's his primary residence. So if I'm looking at this as a seller, this number is actually less significant than this, so I usually go to this number. So I would say, you've got two options here, Mr. Seller. You could sell this property right now. You know exactly what it's worth, what it could sell for. You know how much you're gonna net, and you know you could sell that and pay 0 taxes on that property, and put $200,000 in the bank. Or you could choose to rent the property out, put about $490 a month into your bank account. Now you're taking the risk. What if your boy Trump gets impeached? What if this changes? What if that changes? What if you have a tenant who comes and destroys your place? What if you have somebody who squats on it for 6 months? What if the market crashes? What if? So do you want to put $200,000 guaranteed tax-free money in your pocket now? Or do you want to put $490 a month into the bank and roll the dice with all of those different variables? Which would you rather do?